And so in your role as COO,
Yeah.
can you talk us through, because that can mean a lot of different responsibilities. Can you talk us through what the key objectives are for you in your role in the company at this time?
Sure. The main goal of the operations side of Concerto is to bring new discoveries into real world testing. We have a core technology that basically turns out interesting new potential ingredients. And in the lab, we can test them in a bunch of different ways, and that gives us an idea of like, this might be a new way to treat eczema, or this might be a new way to, clean a table. But then you have to go and clean some tables, right? Does it actually work? And importantly, to be able to actually clean some tables, it needs to be manufacturable. So you need to be able to scale the manufacturing at a reasonable cost. No one is going to pay thousands of dollars for a cleaning product. You need to be able to make it at a certain amount. It needs to fall within some regulatory landscape. In the United States, that product may be controlled by FDA, or it may be controlled by EPA, depending on where you're working with. And then you go and actually do the test. So cleaning tables might be an easy thing to test, but going into, say, human clinical trials, that's a bit more complicated. That's big picture what my side of the company does.
And so in that role, what have you learned along the way in terms of what were the top 2 or 3 key learnings and lessons that you've learned and now stick by?
Oof, deep.
Yeah, that's what the listeners want to hear.
Yeah. I think the hardest question, and this is probably true of any role, is deciding whether we should do something internally in-house as a company versus outsourcing it to someone else.
Yeah,
that is a complicated question.
You mean from a manufacturing, CROs, CDMOs?
The testing, the manufacturing, If you build the capabilities in-house, then the speed at which you can do that development goes up.
Eventually. But not to start with,
It might take some time to bring
short term,
up that
long-term
capability.
game. Yeah.
You have to find the right people. You have to hire the right people. And once you have that, then that team is going to execute at a way faster pace than a third party will. Usually,
is the quality of the work better once they're, or is it because of the ownership, or is this? Do the outsourced partners, do they tend to have, because of their expertise, I suppose, do they have a higher level of quality?
That's an interesting question. There is a mandated level of quality for something, say, like clinical trials.
Yeah.
You are expected to hit certain thresholds of quality. And so I don't know. If done well, both of them should be at the same level of quality to meet the regulations. So I don't know that it might be that some of the third parties have higher quality, but doing sufficient quality is sort of like a mandate. So you're gonna have to get there.
Yeah, either way.
Yeah.
Yeah. I suppose because it's almost like, because in my mind that's what you're paying for. You're paying for the expertise and the in-house knowledge over years and years. But I can imagine in reality, when someone knows your own molecule, knows your own product, there's a sense of ownership that can sometimes come with higher standards and higher levels of. See what I mean?
Yeah, and if you build the right incentives into the contract, then maybe you can achieve that outside of the company. But having it inside of the company, the biggest advantage is that you're going to encounter problems during the development phase. And when we encounter a problem, say in manufacturing, so we're doing manufacturing in-house, for example, when we encounter a problem, I hear about the problem 3 minutes after we find it, right? And 2 hours later, we are probably already in a conference room talking about how to solve it. And by the next day, we are running the new experiment that will tell us whether we found how to solve it or not. With a third party, it's probably a week before we hear it, and then in the best case scenario, and so it ends up taking 2 to 3 weeks every time there's a little problem. There's this cycle of communication that just takes forever.
Yeah.
And so we probably saved like 6 months worth of development time by going inside,
Which is significant,
even
right?
with the hiring and all of that.
And when you think about how you're managing a funding runway and things like that, that's significant.
It's huge. Yeah.